On Tuesday, August 1st, 1989, 26-year-old Ronnie Jack entered the First Leader pub in Prince George, British Columbia. While in the pub, an unidentified man approached Ronnie and the two began talking. At some point during their conversation, the man, described as a 30 to 35-year-old Caucasian with reddish-brown hair and a full beard, offered Ronnie and his wife Doreen a job in a logging camp 5 miles past Bednesty in the Klukel's Lake area. The man told Ronnie he could buck logs at the camp, and his wife Doreen could be a cook's helper in the kitchen. Ronnie, who had been out of work due to a back injury and was relying on welfare to support his family, jumped at the chance. As Ronnie did not have a car at the time, the unidentified man offered to drive him to the camp the very same night. The pair left the First Leader pub in a dark-coloured four-wheel drive pickup and headed to Ronnie's home. At 11:16 p.m, Ronnie called his brother and told him about the job offer, and then 2 hours later called his parents to let them know both him and Doreen were leaving for a camp job. Ronnie told his mother he would be back in 10 to 14 days, and just before school began for the couple's children, Russell 9 and Ryan 4. Ronnie attempted to make arrangements for his 2 children to be cared for by his relatives, but due to the early hour of the morning, he was unable to find anyone to look after them. The man then assured Ronnie and Doreen there was a daycare on site, and so the family packed their belongings, and all 4 members were seen leaving their home in the man's 4-wheel drive at 1:21 a.m. Over the next 3 weeks, no one from either Ronnie or Doreen's family would hear from them, and on the 25th of August, the family of 4 was reported missing. Despite investigation efforts and a $2,000 reward offer, police only had a description of the man who approached Ronnie at First Leader pub. The man was described as anywhere from 30 to 40 years old, standing between 6 foot and 6'6", with reddish-brown hair, with a short full beard and mustache. He was wearing a baseball cap, a red checkered work shirt, faded blue jeans, a waist-length blue nylon jacket, and work boots with leather fringes over the toes. For 7 years, the disappearance of the Jack family would remain cold, until the Vanderhoof police received a call from a man early Sunday morning on January 28, 1996. The caller stated, "The Jack family are buried in the south end of ranch," before terminating the call. Unable to determine the name of the ranch the caller had stated, investigators appealed for the man to call again in local newspapers, but received no response. Later, the police would manage to trace the call to a house in Vanderhoof, where a house party was taking place during the time of the call, though it is unclear if the caller themselves were ever identified. Despite conducting hundreds of interviews and obtaining thousands of documents relating to the case and the use of sonar and heavy equipment, the Jack family has not been found to this day. Over 30 years have passed, and the police are yet to determine the fate of the Jack family or the identity of the man who approached Ronnie at the First Leader pub. To this day, the family's case remains unsolved. On the late afternoon of February 28, 1989, in Fukushima, Japan, a 23-year-old teacher intended to use the public squat toilet when she noticed a shoe in the bottom of the pit. Rather than continue to use the toilet, the woman went outside and opened the lid of the septic tank, discovering a human foot sticking out. Panicked, she screamed for help, and eventually one of her co-workers called the police. Despite the efforts of the police and firefighters, the body was crammed into the small pipe in such a way that they were unable to pull the body out by hand. In the end, it was concluded that the only way to retrieve the body was to use a drill to dig up the pipeline and destroy it. Inside, they found the naked body of 26-year-old power plant supervisor Naoki Ogino, with his shirt neatly folded and clutched to his chest. Naoki's father claimed his son had left the house to run errands 2 days prior, but had not returned. The young man was said to have been a kind person who participated in various activities in his city. When his body was identified, the female teacher who had discovered him told police she knew him personally. Though details of the relationship between the two are not disclosed, it is known that after suffering from harassment by an unknown caller, the woman and her boyfriend asked Naoki for his help. According to the autopsy report, it was likely that he had passed away on February 26, 2 days before his body was discovered. Besides a few minor scratches on Naoki's elbows and knees, there was no other trauma, and the medical examiner concluded the cause of death to be hypothermia. Police concluded the 26-year-old's death was not of foul play, but rather Naoki had died while trying to peep at women in the bathroom. However, many people did not believe this to be true, and over 4,000 people, including Naoki's father, signed a petition to reopen the case. Several unexplained details of the case still remain unresolved. Although one shoe was found in the pipe above Naoki's head and seen by the teacher who discovered the body, the second was found on a riverbed far from the location of the body. The shoe found above Naoki's head and directly under the toilet was also strange for such a tight place. Being near the head, rather than closer to the feet or legs, could suggest that it may have been dropped directly from the toilet onto Naoki, rather than end up close to his head from him climbing in. His shirt was also found clean, neatly folded, and clutched to his chest, which begs the question as to how someone could climb into the tight space and fold their shirt. The idea of hypothermia has also been questioned. Though the climate is cold around February, Naoki made no attempt to cover himself with the shirt for warmth if he was in fact stuck. The young man's car was also left unlocked with the key in the ignition, so one has to question why, if he intended to be there for an extended time, he would not take his keys with him, or at the very least, lock the car door. There are some theories regarding the death of Naoki, though they are circumstantial. Some people suspect the female teacher who found his body might have something to do with his death. Though he had helped her with a case of harassment, she was the one to spot a shoe in a darkly lit septic tank. And rather than call police or dismiss it as a lost shoe, she went outside of the toilet to lift the lid of the tank and find the body. Others have pointed to an accident that occurred at the power plant Naoki worked at, one so severe it caused his co-worker to commit suicide. However, if it was a suicide attempt, it seems like a very morbid and drawn-out way to commit the act. Despite these theories, and the petition to local police, the case remains closed, and there's a good chance we will never have answers to the strange death of Naoki.